entrepreneurs, and professionals of Tampa Bay. Welcome to your hour for getting the information, the tools, and the connections for elevating your business. Welcome to Getting the Edge with Kelly Wilson. And here's your host, Kelly Wilson.
Welcome to Getting the Edge. I'm your host, Kelly Wilson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Getting the Edge is a product of Edge Media Hub, Tampa Bay's multi-platform media company specifically designed to assist the small business community with building connections, visibility, and influence. Wanted to thank our show sponsors. Thank you to All Trust Insurance, your trusted employee benefits partner. Thank you so much to Pilot Bank and the entire team there. Thank you to WeBeam TV and Tampa Bay Multimedia. Right now, especially in the crazy times that we're in, if we're all looking for new ways to communicate with our clients and our community, definitely consider having your own version of Getting the Edge. Reach out to John Gaston and his team at Tampa Bay Multimedia and see what opportunities are out there for you. We've had the show now over 5 years, started as a radio show, and we've transitioned to, as John would call it, pod vision. And now today with this technology, now it's even bigger than that or different than that, and we'll talk a little bit about that and as far as the virtual changes that we're going through as well. But definitely thank you to all of our sponsors. Through this unusual time, I'm so thankful. We recently transitioned into Edge Media Hub. We've taken Edge Business Magazine and Edge and Getting the Edge and Edge Media and Creative and Edge Connect, and have really taken all of it into a hub with all of these different media platforms. But through all of this, and what's really driven me over the last 7+ years is community. It's really all been about community. Even now with the new website and the digital analytics, it's still really at the end of the day about community. And I get it, the numbers and the analytics, it's all very important, but to me it's always been about community. And I think through this uncertain times, it brings us right back to our roots, and as far as what's truly important. So really through this time, I wanted to bring on guests and really talk to our community about ways that everyone's adapting. And that a lot of the shows, we want to share stories, and I thought who better to really talk with and share these stories with are some other leaders in the community as well. So excited to have with us, as we're getting used to our virtual ways of guests. I don't have anyone in the studio with me, so this is no hugs today. But I'm very excited to have Jessica Rivelli, founder of Working Women of Tampa Bay, and Kelly Flannery, President and CEO of South Tampa Chamber, with us today. Hello, ladies. Thank you for being with us. Me.
Hey there, Kelly. Kelly and Kelly.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It's such an unusual time, and we're all adapting, and you guys have become professional experts now at Zoom and any type of digital networking. My gosh, congratulations, because I know that you're utilizing your networks to be able to educate and provide the information virtually. And I look forward to talking about that. But first of all, how are you both dealing with everything? Jessica, how are you?
We're doing great. I work from home. I worked from home before this, so it's not hard for me to transition to working from home on a regular basis. Of course, I would love to get out there and continue to network in person and see my members and give everybody hugs. But at this time I can't do it, so that's a little bit of a challenge. But pivoting to working from home wasn't a problem for me because I already work from home. So.
I have always been such a homebody, that really I feel like I'm quarantined most of the time anyway, but I don't like the option not to have to go anywhere. Like, I wanted to be able to decide to stay at home, not be told to stay home, right? I mean, that's been a struggle, but likewise, I mean, I enjoyed going to the office when I go in, because you need that kind of that interaction, people interaction, but we're all at home. So Kelly, how are you adapting?
We're doing great. I mean, the number one thing is that, my family is safe. We're all healthy.
Absolutely.
We have a place, to be, food on the table. So we're just very thankful that those are the opportunities that we have. But from the chamber perspective, from the business perspective, we did move our staff, all 4 of us, to be working remotely. I think this is week 3. And it was a little bit of a challenge at first, just because we're such a social group together. And then in addition, just the interaction that we normally get to have with our members face to face every single week was an adjustment to make. But from a technology standpoint and an operational standpoint, we put all the steps in place after Hurricane Irma a few years ago for the chamber to be completely mobile. So over the past 2 years, we've done everything that we needed to do, that essentially we could pick up the chamber and move at any time. And so those were some great best practices that we were able to put in place to prepare us as an organization. After Irma, even though Tampa was spared, we had staff that was working from 3 different states at one point, and you would have never known that the chamber office wasn't physically open. So thanks to technology and the things that we're able to do through that, you can call the chamber phone number right now and a team member is going to pick up. And we're enjoying just learning a new way of doing business. And hopefully that makes us a better resource for our members who are going through a similar transition as well.
Kelly, I must say, as far as my experience with chambers, and I sold real estate in my former life for over a decade. And, I was a member of every chamber in every county, it seemed, from Pinellas to Polk to, and this was over a decade, later 90s into early 2000s. But you are just amazing. Your passion for our community, it's just amazing to see. And honestly, in my own experience, I had not seen that in other chambers. And again, this was late 90s into early 2000s. But I love that. I admire your sense of devotion to our community, and just wanted to say thank you, for that. And I think it's really grown. And again, I'm not speaking. I'm not familiar with any of the other chambers today, but I just, in my experience, and then seeing the way you are, you have totally diminished my thought of chambers earlier on. I mean, it's just amazing to see your devotion. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And we've definitely worked hard over the past couple of years to really listen to our members and local businesses and what it is that they need and what it is that they want from their chamber. I will say, though, we have a great relationship with our other local chambers of commerce and business associations. There's about a dozen or so of us. We have a formal MOU in place. And right now we're meeting weekly as we're discussing the things that are happening internally within our own organizations, as well as how this crisis is impacting our community and local businesses. And recently we've started shifting that conversation to rebuilding and recovery. So we're looking forward to continuing to work as a collective body to make business strong here in the Tampa Bay community, not only now, but for years to come.
Absolutely. And I agree. I've worked in a part of the eBoard Chamber as well, and Travis Horn and his group over there are amazing as well. What is some of the, I guess, biggest concerns that you've seen from some of your business members? Jessica, what mostly are you hearing about? Is it fear of unknown? Is it cash flow? Is it just the uncertainty? What are you hearing?
Well, I mean, it runs the gamut because we have such a wide variety of members that we're hearing everything from I'm having trouble filing for unemployment all the way to, I'm trying to figure out how to keep my business up and running, even though I'm not an essential business. Right. But I want to be able to keep operating in some way. So some of them are then turning toward online stores and doing virtual, whether that's like a retailer doing like a virtual fashion show or something to sell. So I think we have such a wide variety of members that their needs are they run the gamut, but I think at this point, everybody's just trying to keep in front of their customers in some way. And that's why Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, all these different social platforms are so important right now, because what we don't want to happen is for them to fall off the radar and people forget about them, or people think that they're closed when they're not. And so it's been difficult. And I think that trying to figure out what are the needs and trying to meet those needs for us, we've been able to pivot very quickly to taking almost all of our programming that was in person virtual into doing Zoom. So we're doing 5 to 6, sometimes 7 Zooms a week that are meant to help educate our members, whether they're business owners or not, on professional development that they can then turn into helping to, like in this case, like keep the lights on, so to speak. Right. So I think everybody's needs are a little different. I think everybody has a fear of the unknown. We don't know when the stay-at-home orders are going to be lifted. So I think a lot of people are in limbo, but I think the most important thing to do right now is for everybody to just keep the faith, focus on what they do best, and stay in front of their customers, their clients, their community in any way that they can. And I think Zoom and other platforms are perfect for that.
Well, and yeah, thank God for technology today, right? And thank goodness that this happened during this age of technology, or we would be completely in the dark, so to speak, with all of this. Before I go on to you, Jessica, I just wanted to say thank you to you. You do, and I admire you, and I'm so thankful for your contributions to our community. You do so much through your foundation, the Working Women Foundation, with your gift card purchasing and your encouragement for others to do gift card purchasing, and just the seed money that you've provided to the other women-owned businesses. You're definitely, a fixture in this community that the community needs and couldn't live without at this point. So thank you so much for your encouragement and everything that you do.
Thank you. And that was one of the chief components of whatever we did when we went on, from being offline to online, was we wanted to help those businesses that didn't have, that can't always use technology.
Right.
So we started a gift card buying campaign. We're using half of the money that we generate through the Zooms to then go out and purchase $100 gift cards from our members that have either had to close completely or had to have limited their capacity specifically because of these stay-at-home orders. So over the last, I think 3 weeks now, we've purchased almost $3,000 worth of gift cards from 30 members, all of them women-owned businesses. And the hope is that we'll do 5,000 before we go back to business, so to speak. And then we hope to be able to do something fabulous with those gift cards during a great party that we can, when we celebrate getting back to business. So, but thank you for the kind words, Kelly. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the partnership I have with Kelly with the South Tampa Chamber, who's doing some amazing things to keep her business owners up and running as well.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't have all the answers. And that's why I think it's great where we can bring in our community and really bring everybody together to share their expertise and their experience, because we all don't. And then we're still able to educate, through these uncertain times that we don't know. And, you guys have really transitioned quickly with Zoom and the other, everything, the different offerings that you're doing. Have you seen anything more being asked for than others as far as education or information?
I think that's going to shift as we go through the cycle. So when we were just starting this, I'm going to call it a cycle. I don't really know what else to call it. When this was all first starting, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, everybody was just looking for information. How do I stay safe, and what's going to happen next? And then as we started waiting for things like the safer at home order to come forward, there was just, everyone, I think, felt like they were in limbo. So everyone just wanted information. What's going to happen next? Then this past week, after that transition happened and the CARES Act passed, it became, how do we get information out to people specific to the CARES Act and legislation and the multiple different aid and loans packages. And so then it shifted from, we just want to know what's going to happen, to what does all of this mean, to how do I access it? Additional information has now come out in the past couple of days regarding our health and safety of the community. And I think once everybody gets settled down and understands it really is better to be safer at home, and we have to just adapt to this temporary normal. It's not a new normal, and I'll give kudos to Debbie Lundberg for having that conversation. It's not the new normal, it's our temporary normal, because we're back to something else or something new when we get past this. So I think as we go through the cycle, the need that people have is going to change.
Right.
I think that organizations like our chambers of commerce and like Working Women, and even the people that you're going to be bringing on, Kelly, onto your show to share information, the need is going to change as we go through this cycle, because right now we're in the middle of it. But then the next step is going to be when we start planning for rebuilding and recovery.
Right.
Next step after that, the next phase after that is going to be the actual action of rebuilding and recovery. And then what does the new normal look like after that? So I think you're going to see that the needs that people have are going to change as we continue to go through the cycle. And it's just important that we all stay aware of what that is and how we can continue to bring pertinent information out to business owners throughout the community, whether it's information on funding mechanisms or whether it's just general best practices for business that you could be using now, but that you can also implement in your business when business gets back to a more normal state later on.
Yeah. Jessica, do you want to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think she's right. I think that the needs are going to change over time, and it's kind of one foot in front of the other. The one thing that I really feel like is going to be a blessing out of this is there's so many, I'm seeing it, of course, with women-owned businesses that are being able to pivot and tweak their business model to continue to survive. And so I think just like you saw after the 08-09 financial crisis, there was so many amazing businesses born out of need. And I think that we're going to see something similar. You're already seeing a lot of restaurants pivoting to being doing delivery and curbside takeout. And so, that's just one example. We have one member, Michelle Northrup, who's a founding member of our organization, who actually birthed a business 10 plus years ago during that 08-09 time as well. She creates hot sauces. And so she, since creating hot sauces, that she's done a lot of farmers markets. So she organizes farmers markets for other vendors like herself to be able to sell their wares and their fruits and vegetables and delicious snacks and all that kind of stuff. So when the stay-at-home order happened, she was forced to then go, okay, we have to cancel these farmers markets. And so she pivoted toward, instead of us coming to the farmers market coming to us. And so over the last couple of weeks, she's been delivering gourmet food baskets. They don't have just food too. They have cute things like stickers and jewelry and soaps and basically items that you would normally have seen in a craft market, a food market kind of situation, but now it's coming right to our door. And so I wonder, will that business survive after this? Because now I'm getting these, and I selfishly don't want it to end because I like the idea of stuff coming to my home. So I'm actually, I know that there's going to be phases, like Kelly mentioned, of how we're going to recover and what the new normal is. But I really, I feel like long term, there's going to be some amazing businesses born, and not only just businesses, but techniques or additives like the curbside takeout and these things that we're going to say, hey, I don't want this to end when things get back to normal.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of them will. I think it will be part of our new normal, that we've grown accustomed to, and we're not just going to forget what we've been through. I think we're all going to be a little sensitive with getting back to what used to be our normal, as far as going out to dinner or going to a show or going and doing anything that we're really used to doing. So I think having still some of that, whether it's the curbside or the delivery. I know I've always of course liked Amazon too, but I've gotten even I guess taking advantage of that even more when you need things. So and our virtual shows and Zooms and instructional type of events that we're experiencing. So hopefully we'll some of that will be implemented into our new normal as well. But definitely it is unique times, and I love that Kelly was we were talking about rebuilding and recovery, because yes, we want to make sure the information is provided now, and we're doing everything we can to make sure everybody knows that we are all in this together. But it is going to soon be about recovery and rebuilding. And one of the things, a lot of times through our community, we have down summers because everyone's traveling and the kids are out of school and everybody's doing something and going somewhere. Where I'm hopeful maybe for our community, this, as we hopefully maybe in June-ish sometime start to kind of gain some normalcy, it'll be at a time where we can flourish and our businesses can flourish during the summer months versus maybe what spring now would have been a very busy time period for most of us. Yeah. So what are you guys thinking? Are you kind of, Kelly, what do you think? Are you looking towards summer being?
Yeah, I think you're right, Kelly. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think what is normally a slow time here in Tampa Bay, which is June through September, I think if we can get back to business starting, I'm hoping before June, but let's say it's June. I do think you're going to see a push to bring business back to the Bay Area during the summer. And I think that maybe some folks that were planning to travel for their summer vacations will choose to do a staycation instead.
Right.
I mean, I think about the like things that have happened in the past here in Tampa Bay, like the BP oil spill, and Kelly mentioned Hurricane Irma. I mean, we've gone through things locally where our community has had to embrace and rise up and support one another. I remember like when the BP oil spill happened, there was so many, like the beaches lost so much business, and it was during a crucial time when they had a lot of tourism, and so it was devastating. But the locals really rallied around them, and they chose to go to Clearwater Beach to have food or to stay in the hotels. And so I do think you're right. I think when we get back to business over the summer, I think it'll be 100% in, and the local community will really embrace the local small business owners. And maybe instead of spending money elsewhere on vacations, they'll choose to keep that money here in Tampa Bay and support members of Working Women, members of the South Tampa Chamber, and other organizations that are trying to keep these small businesses alive during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. We have such a phenomenal community that supports each other and that really wants to see each other thrive and just prosper. So I definitely see them investing, and spending the money here locally. Kelly, you want to add to that as well?
Completely agree with that. I mean, even just seeing what's happening in our community right now while we're in the middle of it, and there's no reason to think it's going to stop when it ends. The donations that people are making, the very specific and strategic support that people are giving, I think we're going to continue to see that as we go through the summer. To Jessica's point, I think people may be traveling a little bit less, especially as we wait to see what's going to happen around the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So this is something that's a little bit different because it's not only impacting Florida, it's impacting the entire United States and the entire world. So I think people may choose to stay a little bit closer to home for a bit. And that's a great opportunity as a community for us to continue to support each other and support local business in the same way that we would for a Shop Small Saturday or as we go into the holiday season and we ask people to support local. I think that's going to just be the theme that you're going to see throughout the Tampa Bay community for the remainder of this year. And I also think, that there's a silver lining to what we've been forced into right now in regards to adding technology and new innovative ways to do businesses. The reason Amazon is successful is because they make it easy. And so, Kelly, I was telling you before we started the interview that as a chamber, we had avoided technology for a while and bringing education to our members through technology because it seemed hard and scary. But now that we're doing it, we know that it's not, and it's probably something we'll continue to do so that we can make it easy for our members to access information. And for a lot of our retailers and restaurants locally who are making it easy for people to order online or have curbside pickup. I know there was one local boutique that she was, prior to the stay-at-home order, she was doing FaceTime virtual shopping with her customers. You could call her and she would walk around the store with her iPhone and show you the inventory that she had so you could place an order with her over the phone and she'd have it shipped out to you or ready to be picked up. So my hope is that the small businesses and the local businesses that have been forced into some new innovative technology and who've had to pivot the business for right now will keep some of these offerings later on, and that the more accessible we make our local businesses, the easier we make it for people to support them, the more likely people will be to continue supporting them throughout the rest of this year as well.
Well, and it is great that this is somewhat accepted, normal now, or it's so much more time efficient as well. You think about the time that we spend maybe going to networking things, or, you still want that personable aspect of it. I know I miss that, but I think for, it's time efficient. You're able to do more and get more. I think, Jessica, especially for you, where you have so many events, maybe coffee, different things that you do a month or each week, this, more members can probably do more because they're not having to travel, right? And into the different areas, so they can connect and be a part of more of them, I would think.
Yeah, so we, in the past, we've done anywhere between 16 and 20 a month events, coffees, lunches, workshops, nighttime events. And since we've pivoted to Zoom, we've done like, I think the average is 6 a week, and we have the capacity to do even more. So I think if the month of April shakes out the way we think it will, we'll end up with somewhere between like 24 and 28 events that we've put on this month. So it's fantastic because it increases our capacity to be able to, provide quality education. And like you said, I mean, if I don't have to cross the bridge at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a peak time to cross the bridge,
right.
Any of the bridges, right? Then all of a sudden I might have members coming to a virtual coffee that never would have been able to come to in real life coffee. So but I do think that there'll be, when we get back to business, a really healthy balance between in-person events, because as we mentioned, we miss seeing people, and we really believe that it's that personal connection that drives business. So I don't think that we would, go back or not utilize in-person events after this. I think there'll be a healthy balance between what should we be doing in person so that we can connect and collaborate and get to know each other on a deeper level, and what can be, if there's some education, especially if I was started brainstorming on either speakers that I would love to put in front of my members and guests that are outside of Tampa Bay, and in the past the fact that they've had to fly in or drive in has prevented us from being able to have that kind of education. And so now with the Zoom technology, we're going to be able to, Kate Delaney, who was my keynote speaker, who lives in Dallas, why can't she come to us via a Zoom? And so our keynote for International Women's Day back in March was from Houston, Texas. She was phenomenal. And I'm starting to think, well, I could have had her even earlier than International Women's Day if I had brought her through Zoom. So it's definitely even causing me to start questioning what we can and cannot be providing, and kind of breaking down some of those barriers that I've even put in front of myself or our organization about providing quality programming. But like I said, it'll be a healthy balance when we all get back to business, because I don't think Zoom can replace getting to know, having a cocktail with somebody, or having lunch and getting to know somebody in person, and that feeling when you walk into a Working Women networking room, or you walk into a South Tampa Chamber networking room, like their monthly lunches, and you feel that buzz that comes from 100 business owners in the room at once. Zoom's never going to be able to replace that. And so we'll be back to in-person events when life gets back to normal.
Well, and one thing, when you mention as far as some of the speakers that you might not have normally been able to bring on, sometimes the cost to get some of the speakers that you might like to have is quite a bit, with the budgets that we might have. So that is a benefit as well, considering that you don't have the airfare, and that maybe now their cost is less, to bring them in from a Zoom perspective virtually versus having to fly in person and being there. So that's another advantage, really, for us to consider with speakers going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And so now that'll be, our first phase was just getting the traditional programming that we were used to on through Zoom. And then our second phase will be, hey, how do we use this platform to be able to do things that we never could really do before? And like you said, a lot of it has to do with cost and travel. So I think that's what crisis does, is it causes us to grow and stretch in ways that we never thought we could, or maybe we were somewhat happy and feeling comfortable, and so there was no reason to stretch and pivot and all these things that COVID-19 is making us do. And so that's why I really do. I know in my heart that the new businesses that are built during this time, and the businesses that have been forced to pivot, are just going to be so much more successful in the future because we went through this today. So it's a tough lesson to go through now, but I really do in my heart believe that we're going to be better off as Tampa Bay and better off as a business community because we went through this.
I think there's lessons to be learned in everything that we go through, and positive to be taken away from every situation that we go through, no matter how horrific or tragic that experience can be. There's always something to learn. So I'm always trying to be grateful and practice gratitude and being mindful, not stressing about what I can't control, but always trying to kind of fixate on what I do have control over, and that may be making sure my family's taken care of and making sure that I'm always working on taking positive steps every day to take steps forward. I wanted to mention to all of us, we love our events, and we all, with Edge, we have our 3 big events that we do a year. And I know all of us, we do. When do you look, when your team sits down and you think about planning for the future, when do you look for that first big event again? Or are you even thinking that way?
Well, we're having this conversation weekly. So Taste of South Tampa, which is our largest event of the year, was one of the events that we had to postpone. It was scheduled for the 3rd week of March. Right. And so prior to even being instructed by the county or the state that we needed to do that, we just felt it was the right thing to do for the safety of our community. So that's been rescheduled for October.
Okay.
Wanted it to be far enough out, but also we had to be cognizant of the weather because it is an outdoor event. But for our monthly luncheons, we have 150 members in the room together every single month. And so to us, that's just a standard monthly event. But for a lot of organizations, that would be considered a rather large event that we're essentially hosting, 10 or 11 times per year. Our general rule of thumb that we're using for the chamber right now is if our stay-at-home order is in place through April 30th, we're not hosting anything, or we don't have anything that we're currently promoting that's for 30 days after that. So understanding that even when the stay-at-home order ends, which right now is scheduled for April 30th, but we don't know if that's going to be extended. It's going to depend on how things go the next couple of weeks, that business owners are going to be focused on their business and on their family. Kids still may not be in school. So it's easier to just host kind of a pop-up happy hour or a pop-up coffee or something like that than to really put the planning into something that we're unsure of. So as of right now, we don't have any live events scheduled through the end of April. We haven't canceled or postponed our May events yet, but they're on hold. We're not taking event registrations. We're not accepting sponsorship dollars, things like that. So we're kind of planning things right now 2 weeks out. And we're just looking at everything from a 14-day lens. We're very hopeful that once we get into the June and July months that we can really ramp back up with the things that we normally would have done. I think one blessing in all of this is that a lot of organizations start to dial down a little bit as we get into the summer months, as you get closer and closer to Memorial Day. So there'll be less of those event cancellations and postponements as we go forward than the amount of things that happened, in March and April, and the impact that it had on our events industry and our hotel partners. And so I'm hopeful that, all those events are not necessarily to get pushed to fall. There may be some events that were a little bit smaller or less cumbersome from a logistics standpoint that can just be picked right back up in the summer.
Yeah, Jessica. Yeah, I agree. It's hard, and we all want to be positive and optimistic, and we'd love to look at the stay-at-home order ending at the end of April. But we just don't know. But like you, when I think about it, it's like the fall sounds safe. You really want the summer to hopefully pick up business, and businesses start to do well and really get back to adapting to our new normal, right? And then trying to figure out, and then hopefully we have a great second half of the year.
There you go.
One of the suggestions that was made by one of our chamber members earlier today in a Zoom webinar that we had when we were talking about recovery and rebuilding was, we do ribbon cuttings for grand openings and milestone anniversaries. And what about doing some smaller version of a ribbon cutting or other celebratory events for these businesses that are coming back online? So, restaurants that are reopening their dining room, or retail stores that are reopening their brick and mortar locations. And so probably going into those June and July months, I'm not going to be so concerned about chamber events. We're going to be concerned about how do we promote our members, and are there opportunities for us to be doing things in partnership and collaboration with them and celebrating their business. And I think people can get great networking opportunities out of a ribbon cutting or a re-grand opening for a business, the same as they could if it was a formal chamber event. And so that'll probably be our focus before we really start looking at hosting large events again on our own.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you're right. So many are going to be kind of it. I tell you, it's like a one of those 80s movies. There's one in particular. I've been trying to think of what it was called, where she wakes up and it was an apocalyptic time, and she gets in the shopping mall by herself, and there's like zombies everywhere. I don't know if you remember. I'm trying to think of what the movie was called. One of my favorite movies when I was young. But I tell you, walking down, I was walking in Hyde Park the other day, and just one of my favorite restaurants is on Swan, and they don't do takeout, so they're just completely closed. And just peeking in the windows and seeing chairs on top of the tables, and just or even driving down the street, it's eerie. Like it's like something like we're in a bad dream. And I mean, like, this can't be happening in our community. It's just, and it's not just our community. I remember when this first started and looking at China and them showing glimpses of that city being Wuhan, I think is what, being shut down, and just thinking, oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine. And here we are, 4 months later, and it's our New York. I mean, it's our Chicago. It's our own backyards.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's going to be super important that when we get back to business that we celebrate. And so that's one of the themes that we've been trying to create over the last couple weeks. So we start the week with gratitudes. I always post on Monday morning, like, what are you grateful for? And then we do a happy hour now on Friday at 4:00 and the theme is, what are you celebrating? And so I think it's really important that we continue to both be grateful and to celebrate during this time. And I know that my members are just gearing up for the time when we can get back to business and we can start celebrating in person. So when as soon as it's safe and we've kind of been given the all clear to start doing events again, we will do them again, and the theme will continue to be celebration. We have, for instance, like right now in my hallway, I have 50, or I think it's actually 100 Working Women 2020 directories that we didn't have a chance to distribute because they were printed during right before we kind of shut everything down. And so I know that we will, when we get back to business, we'll be wanting to distribute those, and there's usually a celebration around that. So I think when it comes to us, our philosophy is when we're ready to go, when they tell us we can and it's safe that we can, we will be right back at it, because my members, whether it's summer or not, are going to want to jump in with both feet and connect and get connected in real life. And so we're excited for that time when that can happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Night of the Comet. That's the movie I was thinking about. I just came out. Did you see it? Do you remember Night of the Comet?
No, I'm gonna have to put it on my Netflix list or something.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, especially Jessica. I'm surprised you don't know that. I know you're like, or you haven't seen it because you've seen so many of the 80s movies. Yeah, Night of the Comet, one of my favorites growing up. But that's kind of when I walk down the street, I kind of feel like, with the CARES Act, and I know as far as with some of the things they just implemented recently with the Paycheck Protection Program, and then the disaster. I don't have the information right in front of me, but I know that we just began processing for that. Have you had any feedback on any of the programs yet, or people trying to apply with our business community banking? Any feedback?
So we've had our members already start applying. We've had some of our partner banks already start processing those, but it sounds like that each individual bank is got their own processing timelines, let's say. And so I've heard challenges about going through the process, and I've heard, wow, that was a breeze, and hopefully they're keeping their fingers crossed that the money will be here once it gets approved through the SBA. So as far as the PPP, yes, we have lots of members who are participating in it and have used our local banks, our partner banks, to be able to process those. And I've also talked to a few members who've gone through the SBA disaster relief loan, and they thought that was actually pretty easy as far as filling out the application.
Yeah, I've heard.
I will say, though, I don't know anybody that's actually received money yet. And so, that's what we're waiting for, is that first person that says, hey, I already have the money and it's in my account, and that I don't have an update on yet.
Well, and what I think is great too is that at least the government has implemented these programs for our small business community, and some that didn't fit into the criteria that typically would be and qualify for any type of SBA funding. So it was great to see them acknowledge. In fact, even in the unemployment being that they've even changed the guidelines for that, and I want to touch on that too. But yes, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Assistance, the EIDL program, was one that if you didn't have employees, that was great for small businesses that really could be solo entrepreneurs and small business owners. So the EIDL program. Kelly, have you had any feedback or anything from your members in regards to the program?
This was pretty much 90% of the conversations that we were having towards the latter part of this week and latter part of last week and early part of this week. I think, to Jessica's point, because the banks kind of rolled things out on their own timeline. Well, first, took them a long time to get the information they needed to be able to educate and provide resources for their clients. And then it was a little confusing for people as things were rolled out a little bit differently by each bank. But I think at this point, most banks should be up and running. We've been recommending to people, very first step is call your local banker and try to work directly with them. If they're, for some reason, not a preferred provider, I have a list of providers throughout the state of Florida that can assist you. We've also been directing people to the Small Business Development Center at Hillsborough County, which is a great free resource that's available to business owners all of the time for various different activities. But specifically right now, they're able to help business owners walk through which of these loans might be the best for you, because all businesses are different and different loans might be more beneficial for some versus others. I also do want to say that our understanding from the conversations that we're having at the state and federal level, not only with our elected officials, but the work that we're doing with the Florida Chamber and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, is that this is probably not going to be the one and done legislation that's going to be passed. We're anticipating that at some point, and I don't know when that's going to be, if it's going to be in the next month or if it's going to be several months from now, that there will be additional legislation and additional funding mechanisms that we are hoping will be provided. And that's still some of the stuff that we're advocating for, both at the state and the federal level, because while there are a lot of businesses that are encompassed in these programs, there are still some that are not. And so we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to be supported. One example of that is a 501c6 organization, which all of your local trade associations and Chamber of Commerce's fall in that designation, and we're not eligible for these programs. So here we're the programs that are going to be assisting our businesses to get back online, but we're not provided the same assistance for us to be able to do that for our organizations ourselves. And so I do think that you're going to see additional programs that are going to come forward in the upcoming months, because there's going to be a need for it. And I'm also hopeful that we may see some stuff that's done at the local level, either through Hillsborough County or with our state government as well.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point, Kelly, because when I read through some of the requirements for like the PPP loan, they were, or I guess, even the EIDL, it was, when I first read it, I thought, oh, okay, great, they are covering nonprofits, but it is only if they're a 501c3. There is not, the C6 is not listed.
Which we were thrilled to see the C3s included, because
absolutely,
we had to fight for that too. They were not included in the original, the original conversations. And so we were, by all means, we're thrilled that they were able to get the support, because many of them that rely on very specific donations, some of their donors are not able to give in the same way that they previously were. So we're thrilled that the 501c3s were included, but there's still additional organizations and and individuals that need more help.
Yeah, and I noticed they did include the 501c19, which apparently is veteran organizations or tribal businesses that have fewer than 500 employees. That was great to see. But it's interesting when you look back at the maximum loan size for like even the PPP, which is 500 employees or less, the maximum loan size is 10 million. You know, it's interesting when you have the entire United States fighting for the same money, $10 million with businesses, like how is that, you know, and I don't remember the number, but they were talking recently about how many businesses has already were kind of staking claim to some of the money, but when you look at, you know, how many businesses potentially will qualify for up to $10 million, how much does that leave, you know, the smaller businesses, and you know, it just doesn't seem adequate for the state that we're in. But when you hear the full dollar amount, of course, yeah, it does. It sounds like a lot of money. But at the same time, when you realize, you know, each loan can potentially go to $10 million, it's not a lot of money. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, and I think that that's why it's really important, like Kelly mentioned, going through your local banker. I think if anything, that this whole scenario has taught us that we need to have our local banker, we need to have an accountant, we need to have an attorney. And there's so many small businesses that are operating without those experts on their side. And I'm not saying that you, as a small business, you necessarily need to go out and have a lawyer on retainer, but you know, we all as small business owners should have those kind of professionals that we can turn to when we need, you know, advice on these kind of things. Like in case Kelly mentioned, you know, that the SBDC can help you figure out which loan is right for you. But if you don't have your books done properly, if you're kind of doing your books on the side and, you know, you're maybe just, you know, once a year giving it over to your tax attorney, there's a chance that you don't necessarily know your numbers. And therefore, when you go to the SBDC to find out which loan is right for you, you don't have the right numbers. So I think if anything, this has really taught us that we need as business owners to have those kind of crucial, you know, whether they're, you know, like I said, it doesn't have to be that they're on retainer for you, but you need to know a great banker. You need to know a great accountant, a great attorney, and some of these key players that help when, you know, when a crisis strikes, because you need to be able to have them just pick up the phone and be able to call them. And right now, with the amount of PPP loans that are being processed right here in Tampa Bay, if you don't already have a relationship with a local banker, right now it's really hard to get them on the phone.
Yeah, it's just interesting. There's so much to, you know, just try to figure out. And I think that's what's so great about the different communities, and whether, you know, Working Women or the South Tampa Chamber or the, you know, other chambers or with the Edge community. It's, you know, you need to be connected or have access to those resources. So if some of those small businesses that may not have their own accountant, you know, being a part of an organization with like-minded people, they can be connected. You know, they can connect and get the information that
there are a lot of people that are offering complimentary consulting services right now. So I know that we have several attorneys within the chamber and several CPAs within the chamber that are offering, you know, complimentary one-time, you know, consulting type programs for people. So I think that we're also seeing those industries that know that they can help step up and offer assistance as well. Of course, you know, we hope that after that relationship is established, that you'll continue to work with them for years to come in a more formal manner. But we are seeing that there's a lot of these professional services that are stepping up and offering help for those people who maybe were not prepared and don't have it.
Yeah. Well, and that is great. That's one of the great things too about our community, and everybody kind of coming together and wanting to help and inspire and kind of give back. And yeah, we hope that you'll utilize their services going forward, and it's an opportunity to form new relationships. What, any feedback in regards? I mean, I think we hear about it on the news every evening when we watch, but as far as unemployment, you know, a lot of the unemployment rules have changed as well, as far as allowing different, even independent contractors to qualify or to apply for it, or sole proprietors. So any feedback? Have you guys had any of your members or any experience with anyone filing for unemployment? And I guess maybe even in the last couple of days, because I know recently they just did some work to it, because we obviously know the nightmares people were having ahead of time. Jessica, anything?
Yeah, we've had dozens of members either file or attempt to file in the last couple weeks. As you mentioned, I think it's getting better. I think I've heard horror stories that it's taken up to 2 weeks to even get through the system. And so, there's been recent reports of them adding more servers and adding more processors and doing things to kind of get the ball rolling with just the sheer amount of unemployed people trying to get into the system. So on our end, yeah, we've had dozens of members try to go through the process, and I think I'm starting to hear that they are getting through, and I'm really hopeful that in the next couple weeks that we've kind of been able to catch up and that the system has been able to process the ones that are already in the queue. But yeah, just to be honest, we have lots of people that are trying to get some income in or get some, funds in to be able to put food on the table. And the quicker that we can get more unemployment checks out the door and these PPP loans and the economic disaster loans in people's bank accounts, I think what will happen is there'll be a collective sigh of relief from everybody who is currently in a financial situation where, being out of business is impacting them on a daily basis. And so I think once you start seeing the money come in from the stimulus checks and from the loans and from, the unemployment checks coming in, I think that everybody will at least breathe a sigh of relief. They'll know that, they can pay their rent and some of these things and
spend money in the community. Right. And be able to spend the money back in the community as well.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Restaurants, businesses. If I'm not getting money, if I'm not getting income in regularly, how am I supposed to benefit or, to be able to patronize some of these restaurants and do the takeout and grocery shop and all these kind of things. So no, it's crucial. I think once you start seeing the money flow right now, I feel like it's almost like it's dammed up. And so once I think that starts to flow, I think you're gonna see a little bit more activity business wise. And then of course, once we can open up fully, I think we're really gonna see a great amount of energy championing small businesses again.
Absolutely. And I think, and Kelly, I want you to add on that too, but I think, being a small business owner, that's one of the things you learn to do is be very careful with your money. And as you're building, and you do not spend frivolously in a sense, because especially as a single mother business owner, you never know what's ahead. And I've been through enough hard times building the community and the business to know that I don't take anything for granted. You just always want to be prepared. So it would be nice, as things become stable out and some of the, we're able to then to support each other. Kelly, what did you want to add to that as well?
We're hearing the exact same things, having the same conversations with our members, that Jessica's had with hers, just that it's been difficult to get through. And I think we just all have to keep in mind that there was no system prepared for this.
Yes.
The massive amount of people that are in need of assistance. There's just no way that this could have been predicted. And so everything is just taking a minute to catch up. It doesn't make it less frustrating or less challenging. But I think to Jessica's point, once things get a little bit more caught up and people receive a little bit of relief, whether that be financial or emotional or whatever it is that, that they're in need of, that we're going to see things start to come back to life.
Yeah. And I think especially, in this time, it's important for us all to acknowledge that it's okay to kind of be uncertain or unaware or we're all worried. And I think it's okay. And I think our communities allow the opportunity for us to kind of be vulnerable and talk about what we're concerned with. And I think all of you, especially, providing, both of you, as far as providing the different networks and outreaches that you are, it's allowing people to kind of get the information that is most concerning to them, and reminding them that they're not alone, and that we're all in this together. And I think that's probably one of the most important things we can do at this point.
I think too, something that's important is just to remember that it's temporary. This is not something that is going to last, for the next year or 2 years. This is a temporary situation. And although we don't know when it's going to end, and I think that's what gives a lot of us anxiety, is that we don't know, is this 30 more days or 60 more days, or what does that look like? But at the end of the day, this is temporary.
Yeah.
So this isn't a permanent state that we're going to be in. It's a temporary place where we're at right now. And if we continue to support each other and look for innovative ways to help each other, and to build up our community, we're all going to get through it together.
Well, and I tell people all the time, you can handle anything temporarily. Everything's okay temporarily. I mean, maybe not on a permanent situation, I get it, but it doesn't matter if it's, 30 to 60 or longer, as far as days. I mean, the idea is to keep in mind it is only temporary, and we will get through this together. And
I think that that's the benefit of, another blessing that's going to come out of this. We already talked about the fact that I think that more businesses are going to be born and more businesses are going to adapt in ways that we've never seen them adapt. But I just think that there's been a refocus on priorities, what's important. You're seeing a lot more people talk about what they're having for Sunday supper, and they're getting together via Zoom to do like game shows. And so I think that there's been a recommitment to community, to their family, to what's important. And if that's what comes out of this, I think that we'll be a better civilization, a better community because of it. And so I loved what Kelly had to say about, patience. And I think it's all teaching us to be patient and to, we can't rush this process, right? Most of us are not going to have a say over when things open back up.
Unfortunately, not.
Right. We're learning. Maybe Dr. Fauci is, but other than that, we probably aren't. And so we're all learning how to be patient, how to refocus, how to reprioritize our life, and how to reconnect with our family and friends. I talked to somebody today who's a very important person in the Tampa Bay community, and she said to me, I'm connecting with people I haven't talked with in over a year. And it's just because they've been so busy and they haven't taken the time to connect because they're, she's running in circles where other women are running 90 miles an hour just like her. Right. And so the benefit of all this extra time is we now have time to pick up the phone or get on a Zoom with women, with people that we've wanted to develop deeper relationships with. And so, I just think that this is long-term is going to benefit us all. We're going to be more committed to our families, our friends, our communities. And I think our businesses are going to be stronger and more nimble and able to adapt because of it.
Yeah, I agree. At the 56 minutes goes so fast. But ladies, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We've got some challenging times ahead, as well. But we're all in this together, and it is only temporary. So that definitely makes it easy for us to all hang in there. I know, and we look forward to doing our events and getting out and just getting back into somewhat of a normal. But thank you so much, Jessica, for being a guest on the show with us today, and Kelly Flannery, South Tampa Chamber. Thank you so much. So I'll see you both soon.
Thanks. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of Getting the Edge and watching Getting the Edge today. We're with you each and every week, providing hope and inspiration and information. Until next time, never stop dreaming. Thank you.